My name is Clement Schadauer. I'm working for the National Forest Inventory in Austria. The National Forest Inventory is under the head of the Forest Research Center for Austria, and I'm conducting this job now since 20 years. National forest inventories are worldwide based on two different statistical systems. One is sampling, going into the forest, and the second one is using remote sensing technologies and GIS technologies. And the main research question is how to combine these two most efficiently also concerning costs. Mainly we are using two different systems of remote sensing technologies. One is with aerial photography, and aerial photography means for Austria that we do have a whole coverage every 3 years in Austria, which is quite good for a country, and we are using these aerial photographs to derive 3D point clouds. This is a special way of working with those aerial photographs, because normally we are producing orthophotos, which are only 2D, but we are using that whole 3D information to come up with a so-called point cloud, which means that we have a point in Austria every 20 centimeters. We have the axis X, Y and Z, and we also know the color, which means that we know RGB and we know infrared information on this every 20 centimeters for all of Austria. There's a big data issue somehow. So one issue for the future is, of course, how to handle this data. The capture of the aerial photographs is done by private companies. They fly certain parts of Austria. As far as I know, it's 6-7 different companies covering all of Austria every 3 years. in a 3-year cycle. And then the quality assessment of these photos is done by the Austrian Geographical Institute, and we get then the data from them. We are using them for different research questions as well as for different monitoring questions for the forests in Austria. And one big issue is always when we are looking at the economical part of the forest, wood. How much wood is in our forests? This is the main question in many surroundings. And so we try to derive out of this 3D point cloud how many cubic meters of wood are standing in each stand. And this information is very relevant for forest owners because in former times they went into the forest and measured everything to come up with these figures. And nowadays the private owners or the companies which help the private owners to organize their forests come to us and we sell them our data. This is one of our main role as National Forest Inventory, that we are interface between research, politics and private owners. We are using also a second technology which is nowadays very relevant also in forest research. This is satellite imagery. And at the moment the European Commission has a big program, the Copernicus program, under which the Sentinel program is launched and is running, and those data are for free. This makes it interesting for many research institutions, and these data have a pixel size of 10 meters, and we have a lot of spectral information in these pictures, and we can get the raw data for free, which means that we have to do some pre-processing before we can start our real research on those data. And the pre-processing on the one hand is done by the European Commission as well, and we can take these pictures which are already pre-processed, but as exact researchers we are not always happy with this pre-processing situation, so we do our research, our own research a little bit, also together with other countries, in getting enhanced pictures that we afterwards can use. What is the difference maybe between those 10 meter pixel size and the 20 centimeter pixel size which we get from the aerial photos? It's very clear that we have the different pixels, but on the other hand the big chance or the big opportunity which is in the remote sensing technology of Copernicus program is that we have an overflight every 4 days. So we have a high temporal resolution which we can use for temporal analysis. But as I said, it's not the whole truth that we have really every 4 days a picture, because we have the cloud problem, and it depends on where we are on the world. We have situations, I don't know, in Middle Europe where we might have maybe 40% of the pictures which we can use, and we might have situations in other countries on the globus where we have a cloud coverage starting at 12 o'clock every day. there we do have big troubles then, and it depends when the picture is taken then, of course. So, and when we come to this high frequency, temporal frequency of these pictures, we can use this for, as I said, for time series analysis, which means that we can follow exactly the vitality of the vegetation and of the forest. So it's very relevant in times of climate change, where we have, for example, in Austria, bark beetle attacks, which we can follow with this kind of technology. Data protection issues are very relevant, and we have now a new EU regulation which came up last year, and we have to follow it. And I think it's still a big challenge that we are able to follow it exactly, and I guess there are some open questions right now. But personally, our institute is not giving away this high resolution data for companies. Normally we can only give them the data if the owner of the forest says yes. If we cannot ask the owner of the forest, then we can give it for research questions. Also there are certain limits, but normally we cannot just put them on the web and say do whatever you like. This is not possible.
Okay. Resolutions getting higher and higher, technologies are getting better and better. Data is becoming bigger and bigger. So how do you see the future development in terms of technology and the implication of this?
Yeah, we are facing a big problem from my point of view as a company. For example, we have 300 people working here, so we have some IT possibilities, but the big question is if the possibilities of such companies like we are huge enough to come up with the future challenges concerning the data, amount of data which we will be facing in the future. So I'm pretty sure that during the next 10 years we will have different solutions where not every company like we are or other research companies will have their own solutions. There have to be some kind of clustering where we can put the data maybe together in clusters, and of course also then the routines where we get out our research information afterwards.
Okay. So gut. Wie liegt man in der Zeit? Wie viel haben wir?
10,5 netto, würde ich sagen. 10,5 Minuten.
Okay.
Ich würde gerne noch eingehen auf die Kompetenzen.
When we want to find stable and good solutions, which can also be relevant for for some time in the future, we for sure need to put different competencies together. It's not enough to just have a forestry education and then say, oh yes, I had some GIS also in my studies, or I had some remote sensing parts of my study. This will not be, by far not will be enough. At this institute here, for example, I have 3 geographers, 1 statistician, 1 specialist for aerial photograph. They all did not study forestry. So I'm very sure that there will be the necessity to work together with those different educations will be the only solution for the future. I guess there might be some development possible from the private side when it comes to sensor technologies, because this is something where universities have their role, but normally it's private companies, and there are different sensors. We already talked about the sensors which are on the satellites and for the aerial photographs, but you have also the laser scanning sensor technology, which is more or less in the hand of private companies. By the way, we have in Austria a big company which is worldwide acting with LiDAR data technology. So this will be, I'm very sure, it will be, of course, the technical universities will be relevant, but also the private companies then will work for this. Concerning forestry, I guess the market is a little bit too small, that really big how to say, big markets can be developed, that there is then for a company it's really relevant to develop something just for forestry. I guess that's too small.
Yeah.
Concerning the long run in those developments with remote sensing data and forestry, or maybe also other land use monitoring systems, I think it will not be easy that the research in the university or in institutions like we are can be kept on, because I think that the real big players will become Google and others. Maybe in 20 years we have other partners as well here, and if they just take a very small percent of their annual turnover, they can finance all this research which is done right now by us, and then they will just take this over. So yeah, we have to be careful, I guess.